Blessed day, everyone. This is the continuation of our discussion the last meeting. Again, as for the disclaimer, all the pictures, informations are for general education purposes only. All informations are in good faith, and the instructor in charge has no intention to claim nor to uh, nor to own it. So the properties of farm. The first property is the specific gravity. The ratio of the weight of a solid or liquid substance to the weight of an equal volume of water. Simplest explanation of this property is when uh, the fuel still remain on the top of the water. That these products will float on top of water so they can continue to release vapors given the correct temperature. Even you will extinguish by pouring of water with the water mixed with a fuel. The water you poured will sink and mix with the water. However, the fuel will remain on top of the water. When there is an application of spark, it will reignite. So even if a small spill fire was knocked out with plain water, fuel floats to the surface. It continues to release vapors and reignite or flashback. Ito yung example. You can see on the picture that the fuel still remain on top of the water. So flammable liquids such as gasoline, diesel, and several other products have a lower specific gravity than water. Thus, lutang lang siya. Just like also the lard, yung mantika, which remain on top of the water. Okay? Which remain on top of water. Ganon din yung fuel dito. Next property is the vapor density. The weight of a volume of pure gas composed to the volume of dry air at the same temperature and pressure. That is why air goes the same flow of the air. It goes the same flow of the air. Let us discuss deeper. The vapor density is the ratio of the density of a volume of gas as compared to the same volume of air. However, when the material density is greater than 1, it is heavier than air and will sink and concentrate in low-lying areas. Mababa lang siya. So, you can still smell that a fuel because it goes on the low level area. But if the material vapor density is less than 1, which is lighter than air, what will happen now with the vapor? It will go up, it will rise up, and then dissipate. So it's hard to smell or it's hard for the person for a far place where the vapor originated, hindi niya maamoy. Unlike with if it is heavier than air, even from the it is far from the where the vapor originated, they can still smell the fuel. As the rule of thumb, there are gases that are lighter than air. The common gases are bolded, such as acetylene, anhydrous ammonia, and then carbon monoxide. Another property is the boiling point. The constant temperature at which the vapor pressure of the liquid is equal to the atmospheric pressure. That is what happened kapag nagbo-boil kayo ng water. When the water is exposed to heat, it will cause to break away of the molecules. And when the molecules now are free molecules keep on absorbing heat, there will be an aggressive movement that causes collision. And when there is collision, it will produce now and increase the production of the or release of the vapor. Eh, katulad lamang yung vapor ng tubig ay naihahalo uh, with the air. So what is the distinction between boiling point and flash point? So let us find first when to sustain combustion. It will sustain combustion when there's certain amount of vapor. When there is no more vapor, how can fire exist? What they can only see there and observe is this smoldering rays. Na walang apoy, what they can only see is the heat and as well as the light. This only shows that this burn material, the fuel is already totally consumed, or more fuel was consumed. Kaya konti lang yung linalabas na vapor. Siguro hindi nasunog lahat. And do you need to have flash point? Yes, which there will be an external enough vapor to sustain burn. Is the flash point is the same as the temperature? What do you think? The answer is no. It's just because you still need an external ignition source where there must be an application of a spark. Liquids with lower flash points are easier to burn at room temperature and therefore more dangerous. What are those examples? Those examples that we mentioned under the flammable. Flammable only requires low degree of temperature in Fahrenheit that can support combustion. Then what is a boiling point? We already mentioned. It only states that the temperature at which the vapor pressure is equal. It also moves the same way, goes the same pressure. Hence, it is the temperature at which the liquid phase will begin to transition to a gas. Next property is the vapor pressure. The force exerted by the molecules on the surface of a liquid. The pressure of the gas being emitted by a liquid or solid when they are in equilibrium, the rate of the evaporation is equal to the rate of condensation. When heat is applied, vapor pressure increases until ignition temperature is reached. There is no such specific a pressure is required as long as it reaches the required pressure. Okay, so when there is the pressure occurs when depending on the heat, depending on the intensity of heat. When there is a higher intensity of heat, more vapor pressure is occurring. Next is the temperature. Temperature is the measure of the degree of the thermal agitation of molecules. We all know that already. Most especially right now, they are getting your temperature whenever you go and visit SM or even other malls. Okay. Now, what is a flash point? The lowest temperature at which a substance gives off vapor that burns momentarily. So it requires here an application of spark. Since there is a lowest temperature only, or it has a lowest temperature, it requires the application of a spark. While fire point is the temperature which the fuel continues to burn after it has been ignited. That even if the source of ignition has been removed, the fuel continues to burn. Let's say, for example, your table. on your right side, that is the source of ignition. That is where the fire started. And then when that portion, right portion of your desk is being burned, the moment that fire consumes fuel, the fire will continue to burn. So if all if all the fuel consumed, the fire will stop. The source or the fire where it started, mawawala ng apoy doon. The fire will continue to flow where the fire can absorb fuel. Even the source of ignition has been removed, yung right portion, ipapunta na siya sa left portion ng yung desk. Even you will remove the source or where the fire originated, the fire will continue to burn. If you want that fire to be removed, then you have to remove where will be the potential target, or where the possible where the fire may flow in or may proceed. So you may cut it off if possible, or to remove, and then if it's not possible, you can apply the other way of extinguishing the fire by means of a water, or extinguishing the oxygen, or extinguishing the heat. An auto-ignition point or self-ignition point, the lowest temperature at which a substance can be heated to release vapors that will ignite without the application of a flame or a spark. This happens when the material is already burned. Like for example, the wood was already, the portion of the wood was already burned. And when there is a possibility that it will reignite, or mayroon tayong tinatawag na flashback, even without the application of a spark. Okay, again, it has the lowest temperature, but it does not require the application of flame or spark. Unlike flashpoint, it requires the application of a spark. They are both the same with lowest temperature, but since the material is already partially burned, so meron pa rin yung heat sa loob. So there is a possibility when there is enough oxygen to sustain the combustion, it will reignite fire. So let us find here the distinction between these three. Flashpoint, it has a lowest temperature. However, it requires the application of the spark. A fuel can be instantly ignited, thus producing a momentarily fire. While the fire point, as the temperature increases, it continuously releases combustible vapors. But the more heat, the more vapor that can be released. Okay, so when the more heat, there will be a possibility that there will be a complete combustion. While the auto-ignition point or self-ignition point, it has a lowest temperature, but it does not require application of flame or even spark, unlike the flash point. Kasi may sunog na eh. So merong heat sa loob. The only way is there is a sufficient element that will support combustion, either the heat or even the oxygen. So here is how it works. Okay, so from the normal temperature, when it increases the temperature wherein there is a flashover, when we say flashover, it is better known as the dust explosion. So flashover is located between the normal temperature and the flash point. So there is a dust explosion. These are the embers, okay? Embers. When there is a certain degree Fahrenheit where the flash point requires a application of spark, yan na magsisimula na sa flash point. And then afterwards, there is already chain reaction brought about by these three elements. There is already fire. So if the burning material continue and keeps on releasing vapor, the fire will continue to consume these vapors. And then afterwards, if those materials are not totally burned, there are some portions that are not yet burned, yet the fire stopped. Few moments, there is a possibility when there is enough and sufficient element to support the combustion, there is a possibility that will reignite even without the application of a spark. Let us find out the distinction between the endothermic reactions and exothermic reaction. Endothermic reaction changes every energy. Heat is absorbed or is added before the reaction takes place. While exothermic reactions, those that release or give off energy or heat, thus they produce substances with less energy than the reactants. Yung endothermic, it absorbs energy. While exothermic reactions, it releases energy. Katulad naman ng yung inhale, exhale, yung endothermic inhale. And then the other one is the exothermic exhale. So the one that releases energy is the exothermic. Katulad lamang ng battery. The battery requires an energy by way of charging the batteries. So, anong electricity supplies energy to the battery. And then once the battery is already fully charged, you will again use it. Then the battery that is being consumed is releasing energy. Then, if all energies are already consumed, malulubat na siya. Just like also the cell phone. So this is how the how these two works. For the exothermic, you can see it there. Exothermic releases the energy. Ito yung mga heat. So that is why the burning materials is being consumed. The fuel is being consumed, it releases energy. When there is more heat, more vapor, more energy is being released. While endothermic, look at also the yung bola, yung nawalan ng hangin. When you place it outside, under the sunlight, di ba lumulubo siya? Because it absorbs energy. We also absorbs energy. That is why when we are also exposed to light at 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock a.m. Kaya it's also recommended that we also need to get out and then magpa-araw muna tayo because of the vitamin, we absorb also energy. Same goes also with the endothermic, yung bola. It absorbs energy. In an exothermic reaction, energy is released into the surroundings as heat. As a result, the temperature of the surrounding increases. While endothermic reaction energy is absorbed from the surroundings, as a result, the temperature of the surroundings drops. And what is this oxidation? Hey. Oxidation is a chemical change that is exothermic, a change in which combustible material, fuel, and an oxidizing agent, which is the air, react. So oxidizing, when there is an oxidation, there is actually a exothermic that is taking place because when one material is being burned, it releases vapor, it releases energy that thus produces, it releases heat, thus produces energy. Okay, so that is oxidation, and then last one is the flames that we already previously discussed. Okay,